on that note, welcome, or I should say welcome back, I suppose, to Let's Play Ace Combat X Skies of Deception. No, you're not in a time loop, and I'm not repeating myself, at least in the way you're probably thinking, but I don't begrudge you if this does seem somewhat, familiar, let's say. I know it's been a while since I've been gone, and a lot has happened in the intervening year and a half since I first took a crack at LPing this game, most notably the actual year 2020 as opposed to the fictional year of 2020 depicted in Ace Combat X. Most notably, I've significantly upgraded my computer in the intervening year and a half, which has allowed me to be able to show off Ace Combat X in a full proper 1080p resolution, as opposed to something desperately struggling to try and appear like it's 1080p, like the original version of this LP. This put me in a bit of a quandary for what to do going forward. Do I continue on from where the original LP left off and just live with the fact that the first half of the game is going to look like absolute garbage and the rest of the game is going to look amazing? Or do I decide to take a mulligan and, I guess, restart the LP from scratch in its entirety? And, well, if you're watching this video right now, you clearly know the option that I went with, which is the latter. So in order to facilitate cohesion between the two runs of the LP, I've gone back and I've brought back my entire slate of commentators from the first run of the LP, with the unfortunate exception of Dr. Snark, who, at the time of this recording, I've been unable to get in contact with, probably for about a year's worth of time at this point. So, unfortunately, he's not going to be appearing in Missions 5A and 5B, Rolling Thunder and Pinned Down. But, in his place, though, my good buddy Blastinus has stepped up to the plate, and he will be taking over the role of Dr. Snark for those two missions. Once we get past Stand Up in the Skies 1 and 2, the LP will effectively continue on its original intended course, with the slate of co-commentators that I had originally scheduled all the way back in 2019. With that in mind, this redo run isn't intended to replace the original run, it's simply meant to, I guess, be a complement to it. I'm not removing any of the original videos from YouTube or either the posts on Something Awful or eventually in the LP archive. They will be remaining as is as a testament to, again, the original run of the game. This redo is simply meant to be a complement to those videos, designed to show off the game in the best possible form visually that I am able to show it off to you in. So you're more than welcome to go back and watch the original videos as a refresher at your leisure, or consider this retake version the proper run of the LP. Either way, I leave the choice up to you. So that's the context this LP is taking place in. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we get started. So with that in mind, let's replay Ace Combat X Skies of Deception. So I could just let the rest of this video play out uncommented over, but I think that's a little unfair, so for the sake of consistency, I'm going to be treating this effectively as close to a regular LP intro video as I possibly can, so let's get started.
Okay, let's begin the briefing. Operator Eugene Solano, I'll be keeping you up to date. We've got news that an invading LASAT squadron has just taken off from the Puna Plains, en route for an attack on our position, Aubrey Base. From their perspective, this attack is the final nail in our collective coffin. After all, this is the only base that hasn't fallen under their control. I guess we can consider ourselves lucky. It looks like the enemy has gotten a little overconfident and sent only a small attack force. Griffith Squadron, prepare for launch immediately. Fly around the mountains and avoid enemy radar. Oh, I forgot. The enemy squadron consists mainly of bombers supported by several fighters. Please protect this base and destroy the enemy bombers. If everything goes well, we should be able to get the upper hand on the enemy in this area. Alright, please prepare for launch. Let's pay back the LASAT forces with at least one defeat. One final thing. During combat, my codename will be Crux. I will keep you up to date on the battle situation, so please pay attention to your radio.
Alright, so stop me if you've heard this one before. So, typical par for the course, first level for an Ace Combat game, just running down a flight of bombers escorted by a bunch of really shitty Z-tier fighters. And again, doing so in defense of literally the last possible allied base in the country. Even on the PSP, Ace Combat is nothing if not consistent, I suppose. So here, of course, is our opening fighter for the game, the F4E Phantom II. Again, this is the same plane that you get at the start of Ace Combat 04, and it's also the... well, it's actually not the same plane that Bartlett has at the start of Ace Combat 5. That's the F4G, I believe, the Wild Weasel. And, of course, typical... Our only starting ordnance is an air-to-ground weapon, so yeah, it's not gonna be much used here, unfortunately.
Maintain your present course. Do you see the enemy formation on your radar? Read loud and clear.
So yeah, the Phantom is pretty slow and sluggish, unfortunately, but doesn't take that long to close the distance on the bombers, and one thing you notice right off the bat is the bombers in this game, and especially like heavier aircraft, will take 3 missiles to bring down instead of 2, as they normally do in a lot of Ace Combat games. So that's usually either like some combination of 3 missiles and guns, or 2 missiles and guns, and 3 missiles to bring down completely.
It's bombed! Unbelievable! There are no military facilities in that city! What are you doing? You shouldn't be wasting ordnance! Relax! We're just going to bomb some bases.
So, taking out these first 2 waves of bombers in under 2 minutes, as you see here, will not only spawn the next wave of enemies, but also spawns this enemy here, the named ace of the mission, Manta.
We're sitting ducks up here! Hurry up and get them down! The enemy! They have snuck up from behind! What?
So yeah, generally speaking, unless things go kind of catastrophically wrong, like, you should be able to spawn Manta like right off the bat, especially because Ace Combat X is one of the few games that actually spawn named aces in a brand new regular run of the game, as opposed to like having to go through a New Game Plus run to get them to spawn as well. And again, I suppose like one of the only ways you can really manage to screw this one up, like they kind of, like there's a few that will spawn by default throughout the game, but this is about as close to a gimme as you can get for getting a named ace to spawn. Like, the only way I think you can probably like really eat through that time is if you just spend all your time going after the fighters instead of taking out the bombers first. So I'm just showing off the yaw and the pitch controls here because generally, like, you control that with the thumbstick. Also, here is autopilot, which this is the way that you can achieve effectively the free roaming camera with the game. You have to push down the throttle and brake buttons at the same time, which on the PSP are the shoulder pad buttons, and then that converts the thumbstick, which is generally your flight controls, into the camera control option instead. Unfortunately, though, the drawback to that is you lose like flight control with it. You can still do yaw with the D-pad left and right, which I was about to mention earlier, but that's really all you can do with it, because unfortunately the PSP only had the single thumbstick, so like Project Aces basically had to remap their entire control scheme around those limited button options. A lot easier when you're playing it on an emulator where you can just remap everything, so I have effectively jury-rigged the controls to function as close, like, to a PlayStation 2 Ace Combat as I can, but even that still, like, really shows its limitations. Also, something you can notice here in the high-definition version is the draw distance fog there in the background and the banding that goes on there. And also here is just me showing off the missile shot camera and just screwing up every one of them, which, again, basically begins the trend of really, really missed, like, just very easy gimme shots in this game for some reason. So you're going to be seeing a lot of that, unfortunately, in the videos to come, but, anyways, as I was mentioning, effectively, the draw distance fog, you can see down there, like, the banding on, like, the extreme ground level, just... I don't exactly know how it's rendered, because it appears to be just, like, it's not like a circle around the plane or even like a square box, but it seems to kind of track with the direction the camera is facing, and, like, as you can see here, like, it's always on the camera's horizon, so I'm not exactly sure how they managed to render it, but it's just one of the interesting little details that I found that, again, just playing on an emulator, like, it really starts to let you see where the seams are in the game, effectively. And I just wanted to go down there just to show off Aubrey base in slight detail from ground level, because we didn't really see it the first time around, and also this right here, this is going to be right here the only time you're really going to see a pause screen in this game, because I just wanted to show off how you change views in this game, which you have to go into the pause menu and manually pick what option you want, and in this case, I'm just showing off cockpit view because, again, something that I didn't get to do the last time around, but I'm going to be showing off every cockpit view in the game as much as I can.
Yeah! Take that! Baked every last one of them! Didn't even break a sweat. Next one, what do you say we head to the capital and take her back right now? Scared and ran away. I've got a reading on radar. Something's coming in at high speed. It's a missile! What? Where? Where is it? Answer me now! Eugene! Laguna Plains! The missile's coming from Laguna Plains! The Gleipnir? Hey, that better not be what I think it is. It's an SWBM! Get out of here now! What should we do? Where's it coming from? How far is it? It's no use! We're too late!
The mission was a success. The destruction of the enemy bombers will help keep an enemy invasion of Aubrey base at bay. However, we also suffered serious losses. There's no way anyone could ever call this mission a success. I'm sorry. I couldn't do anything to save them. So that's the super weapon LASAP used to take over all of Aurelia in only 10 days. Who could have imagined that they possessed such destructive power?
And thus basically begins the game's general thesis statement of, even when you win, sometimes you also lose. But anyway, we are now officially back underway again, so let's play Ace Combat X, Skies of Deception.
Let this be a symbol of the fury borne by our countrymen towards Aurelia.
Such was the impassioned speech of LASAT's commander Diego Gaspar Navarro, as images of the Aurelian squadron's destruction over Cape Aubrey played in the background. A day later, his gravelly voice continued to echo through my hungover brain. October. 1 year after the cessation of the Democratic Republic of LASAT's civil war. After the Civil War, LASAT began to set their sights on their peaceful neighbor, the Federal Republic of Aurelia, claiming retribution for years of exploitation. The invasion suddenly began. With the ever-present threat of the cloaked airborne fortress Gleipnir looming overhead, there was little time to react to the few concerns raised about the validity of the war. Such was the speed at which all of Aurelia fell under LASAT's control. Well, not everything has fallen into their hands, but it's only a matter of time. Looking out over the capital, Gaius Tower is both home to LASAT's Central Command and the very symbol of its power. It was originally intended to be a symbol of Aurelia's peace. How ironic. As I looked up at the sun traveling the same old path across the sky, the rays burned my tired eyes. Damn it. I just wish I could finish covering this completely one-sided war and head back home. I'll never get used to being in the southern hemisphere with its backwards seasons.